Occupation force falls into an ambush by the Qassam brigades in Rafah. A booby-trapped house explodes. Now, people have been talking in social media. Where is the resistance? What's happening? What are they doing? Oh no, look, Israel defeated them. Nothing is happening anymore. They're disarming. They're da. Hold on. Be patient. Several things people need to understand about the Palestinian resistance. Number one, the Palestinian resistance, just before the ceasefire took effect, they carried out their biggest attacks against Israel. Recorded, verified, published. Israel itself declared that during the third invasion of Jabalia, in what was labeled at the time as the general's plan, the genocidal general's plan, killing everything walking in Gaza, they confirmed that over 55 soldiers were killed, including a brigade leader, a brigade commander, during those 55 days. These were the last days before the ceasefire. That means there was a consecutive massacre going ahead from Israel against the Palestinian resistance, actually declaring that they are targeting the Palestinian resistance and trying to disarm them and dismantle them, like Benjamin Netanyahu said, eliminating the Hamas. Now, ever since Benjamin Netanyahu broke the ceasefire, we saw a slight shift. The Palestinian resistance, they carried out activities, not with the same intensity as before. However, we saw a shift. Why? Because their defensive mechanism is a very dynamic defensive mechanism inside of the Gaza Strip, and they are in no rush to either expose themselves in certain locations. As a matter of fact, in some instances previously, only a quarter of a brigade was fighting Israel in certain parts where they had invasions. And they are dragging Israel, luring the Israeli terrorists into certain parts so they can carry out operations such as this one. Booby-trapped, pre-rigged, ready for them to go in and feel comfortable. All of a sudden, that's it. Then they had more missile launches at Israel, and people need to understand that the missile launches on Israel is something very dangerous and more sophisticated to do with an area in Gaza with, Israel having surveillance and they're having eyes in most parts of the Gaza Strip. So their dynamic changes depending on the situation. And there is also a notion that this is a period primarily intended by Benjamin Netanyahu to apply pressure. Like the IDF confirmed, we're having no campaign directly against the resistance. We're having a campaign to apply pressure politically on Hamas. So that's why they're having these types of operations. Over a week ago, the Al-Qassam brigades had an ambush in Khan Yunis, again, pre-rigged ambush, went in, all of a sudden explosion. Doesn't require a lot of effort, no risk whatsoever from the Palestinian resistance. The armed wing of the PIJ, Sarai al-Quds, they exploded a whole tank in one of the areas that they were invading. And again, there are talks happening. Both sides confirming that there are talks, there are developments. Nothing confirmed yet. And this could be a period where the Palestinian resistance is viewing it as a period that will end relatively soon. Now, that's based potentially on a temporary judgment, because the judgment and the analysis of the Palestinian resistance, of the development on the ground, that's something that they constantly revise, that's the constant review, and they amend their actions against Israel based on that. But what this attack that was published today by Al-Qassam brigades is showing us is that, no, there is armed resistance against Israel. It's still going, despite all of the talk. There is a massive campaign online to try and kind of of course, there was a campaign already from the beginning to, demonize the Palestinian resistance. But now there's a campaign to try and, portray the Palestinian resistance as if it's weakened or nothing. None of that has any substance whatsoever. And this latest attack is a proof of that. And usually, when the Palestinian resistance take down a building that has IDF terrorists in it, they wait for a prolonged period of monitoring. They will usually monitor for days to give the IDF terrorists false sense of security so they can come in bigger numbers. And when the Palestinian resistance feels that, a platoon is there, a dozen, whatever the number is, they know that that's the maximum amount that's there, and then they take action against them. Proving that, well, the Palestinian resistance is still there, they're still active. Israel is suffering huge losses despite massive shortages in their army, and we're going to get to those shortages in a minute. And also, well, even if they just want to apply pressure, and if they're not actually intending to dismantle the Palestinian resistance, they're still going to be facing surprises. Now, how does Israel respond? Israel responds against the civilians as usual. Now they've had another massacre in Al-Ma'madan hospital, the Baptist hospital. This hospital that witnessed one of the most barbaric massacres with so much complicity globally, so many people, journalists or presenters, politicians, leaders trying to justify it and blaming the Palestinian resistance at the time when Israel landed what was believed to be a JDAM bomb to inflict as much damage as possible. At the time, the hospital management, they carried out a press conference with bodies surrounding them. But it's as if those images were falling on deaf ears, at least from those who had the power to make any sort of change, whether it was Arab leaders or Muslim leaders or international leaders. Hardly anyone said anything at the time. People were following the Israeli propaganda. They were pushing the lies of Israel, saying that Israel carried out this attack, although, well, the official spokesperson of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he had to take down a post at the time after what he published was proven to be fake and taken out of context, taken from a previous video several years back, trying to prove that it was the Palestinian resistance and one missile fell and killed 600 people. It's like the Palestinians have no missiles that can kill 600 people anyway. What are you talking about? But they carried this out again. Still with complicity, unfortunately. Unfortunately with complicity. Now, shameful leaders, but no, not everyone is shameful. Ansarullah in Yemen, they had several attacks on Israel. And now they're not only targeting the Ben Gurion airport, they're targeting also bases. They're expanding their attacks. And they also targeted a location in the Ashdod area. That was a base in that area alongside Ben Gurion airport. So they had a declaration earlier on today that they carried out these operations similarly to previous reports in which they say that this is in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and we are continuing these attacks up until Israel finishes or ends the genocide in Gaza and also lifts the siege of the Gaza Strip. Now, the United States is attacking Yemen on behalf of the state of Israel. They're doing that with taxpayers' money. They're doing this not for any American interest. They're doing this purely for an Israeli interest. And they're killing innocent civilians in Yemen. As a matter of fact, they killed 18 people in the past 24 hours in Yemen, following their recent attacks. The United States is claiming that they are targeting leaders in the Houthi movement or Ansarullah and that, oh, they're effective. Donald Trump is saying, yeah, we're going to keep hitting them, keep attacking. You're killing innocent civilians. And by the way, more and more videos and images are coming from Yemen about people who are unfazed really by these attacks. Unbelievable. The Yemeni people, they have a special strength. It's as if they're not fazed by any of that. Millions of people march every week in solidarity for Gaza, to a level where the Palestinian resistance also, well, they published a video dedicating this for Yemen because of their position supporting Gaza, especially at a period where hardly anyone, well, who's supporting them from the Arab states really? But no, they published a video, and Abu Ubaidah, the spokesperson of Al-Qassam Brigade, said that Yemen is paralyzing the heart of Israel in support of Palestine and Al-Aqsa, and they are our blood brothers. They are showing a very great resemblance to Gaza, and they are the ones standing up for Gaza now, the only front opened against Israel and the genocide cartel led by the United States of America. They are the only ones standing up, and they're paying a heavy price for it. That price is, well, innocent civilians are dying in Yemen every single day, being killed by these barbaric attacks of the United States. But listen, the United States is paying a price. Now, not only these attacks against the USS Harry S. Truman, Lord knows the damage, because the United States will hide the damage. You can't hide the damage of the MQ-9s falling down, though. The 19th one, ladies and gentlemen, 19 MQ-9s. This is the 19th one that has been taken down by Ansarullah in Yemen. Each one of them, the build cost of them is 33 million. 33 million. Big number. Times, well, almost 20, 660, over $500 million, or 600 million US dollars. Who's paying for them? You're paying for them. If you're living in the United States, you're paying for that. It's out of your money, taken from your pocket, in the military industrial complex pockets, and they go expand. They spend all of that money. What? And they can fall. One falls, two fall, and they keep sending them, and they fall, and they keep sending them, and they fall. It's like they're burning money. It's as if, money's nothing. Is no one having any financial difficulty in the United States? I wonder. Is everyone well off? Is everyone a millionaire in America? I mean, if everyone is a millionaire in the United States of America, okay, cool. And they're burning money. They're burning money. But Ansarullah in Yemen are very active. And I don't understand why the United States keeps sending them. This is something that's really bizarre. They keep sending the same MQ-9 that falls. They keep sending them, and they fall, and they take it down. But don't you have anything else? Or are you that stupid? What is it exactly? What are you trying to get out of the... Is it a good return on investment? Then it gets as if, money ain't a thing. It's as if money is not a problem for Trump. Okay. Moving on to that letter. I've been talking about this letter. You're probably bored of me with this letter. You keep talking this letter. What are you talking about, this letter? This letter that the Israeli pilots wrote, saying that Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel are conducting a war for political and selfish interests, and not a war based on the interests of the state of Israel. And they are waging a war where more Israeli soldiers are dying and more innocent people are dying. And it's putting Israel in a more, insecure situation. It's putting Israel in a very bad situation. Now, it stopped only being the pilots. Well, it expanded to Unit 8200. I spoke about that yesterday. It expanded to soldiers on the ground who joined this. Now, it's the previous heads of the Mossad. 3 of the previous heads of the Israeli Mossad, in addition to doctors now. Doctors are signing. this letter. So there was this report in Israel saying Mossad alumni backs pilot's letter, 200 doctors also signed. And in the letter that former Mossad heads and 250 other former members of the three organizations said they need to exhaust every agreement that will bring an end to the suffering of the kidnapped, even at the cost of ceasing the fighting. The abandonment of the kidnapped irreversibly erodes the values of the sanctity of life. There is not a single word of refusal in those letters, according to reports. In the initial letter, even, there was no direct, explicit threat of refusal, by the way. But it shows you the state of panic Israel is in. The state of panic, well, by sacking them immediately. It's like these people haven't really said anything about refusal, just voicing an opinion. But it shows you the state where things are headed to. And in this report, they also continue. It's not just 8,200, the unit 8,200, doctors, captains, paratroopers, and gunners. Now, the Mossad, you're seeing how many people are participating. Dani, Yotam, Ephraim Halevi, and Tamir Prado. These were the three previous heads of the Mossad that signed this letter. These are the people. And head of the Mossad, well, everyone knows the head of the Mossad, really. Who doesn't know the head of the Mossad and, you know, the level of this organization in Israel? Again, not in any way to say that these people are somehow good or whatever. No, not at all. We all know them and who they are. But it's showing you, well, some of these people, they have been opposing the way Benjamin Netanyahu is conducting the war in Gaza, or the genocide, more accurately, in Gaza from the beginning. But now with these signatories, they are officially going out against the state. Saying, well, one of the previous heads of the Mossad, Tamir Pardo, famously said that Benjamin Netanyahu is leading the state of Israel into oblivion after the 7th of October. That was very, very shortly after the 7th of October, almost 1 month in. He said at the time, and I spoke about it at the time, by the way, Netanyahu is leading Israel to oblivion, he said. Previous figures in the Israeli army, well, he said, the man is going to kill the state if he continues down this path. Now, these people are not only participating in protests, imagine that, many protests they participated in to get a deal, any cost, get a deal, and the war. They're now signing a letter, outright letter. Now, despite the fact that there is no outright call for refusal, this is how it's being viewed by the establishment, by the government, to be more specific, in Israel. And that's why Netanyahu and his little poodle defense minister or genocide minister, Katz, are sacking these people. Now, this is causing more problems. What are the problems that this is causing now, by the way? This is causing problems with the people who are actively serving. How is it causing a problem? So they are saying now, some of those who are still serving in the terror army of Israel, oh, people who are not even fighting, so some of them, because some of them were, you know, active, and some of them were not. But they're saying, well, hold on, they have a freedom of speech, and they can talk and they can criticize, and we can't, and we need to shut up and go and die. Why should we be in this position where we're going there, getting killed, and not having a word? Okay, well, that's going to create a bigger debate internally. So every day that goes by, this is the logic now, and this is something that's becoming more mainstream in Israel, in the streets. And also many people are saying that, politicians too. And with every day that goes by, Benjamin Netanyahu is delaying this for his own interests, and we're paying with our lives for no defined strategy for the future, with no guarantees, and now with no active strategy against the Palestinian resistance. Like, there is no declared objective now. The previous campaign ended. We were a new campaign with a new name after the ceasefire ended. And that campaign doesn't have the declared objectives that they previously had for the war. The IDF said this is in a hope to apply pressure on Hamas to submit to a deal. They want to extract positions from Hamas. Okay, well, where is that leading to? Nowhere. That means the people are going there dying for no reason whatsoever, apart from Benjamin Netanyahu and his political interests. That notion that was there from the beginning, from the first day, from the day when Benjamin Netanyahu went and visited the Israeli army surrounding Gaza before they decided to have a ground invasion and people were shouting and swearing at him. Then moving on to 2-3 weeks into the war, into the genocide in Gaza, 2,000 fleeing from Gaza and refusing orders. Later on, leading to outright rejection. And now to this moment where you have a letter that's constantly expanding and applying more pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu. From Netanyahu's perspective, it's as if nothing is going to change his mind. Look, he's worried. He is worried. Him and his wife and his closest allies, they worry about the protests and they worry about, things that are happening, criticizing the government. But Netanyahu shows very psychopathic traits, like completely psychotic. This man showing kind of no regard whatsoever to what anyone is feeling around him, even if they are, hardcore, even if they are profound Zionists, for example. It's as if none of them exist. So he's calling these people who are signing this letter a bunch of pensioners, irrelevant people, a bunch of extremists, traitors who want to ruin the state. Everyone is a traitor if he doesn't have his vision. Next level psychopathy, next level lunacy. Now, with the ceasefire, and we've been talking about this prospect of a ceasefire, and potential deal being cooked, potentially something happening in the next few days. Is something happen? Is nothing going to happen? Okay. There are more reports. I mean, one of them was published in the New York Times about hinting about frustration coming from the United States administration, particularly from Ron Dermer. Ron Dermer, who's leading the negotiating delegation. Benjamin Netanyahu appointed Ron Dermer to lead the negotiating delegation at the expense of, or to replace, the heads of the Mossad, Shin Bet, and the representative of the army, alongside the senior figures in the Israeli delegation. So the people who are under him are the technical team, people in charge of some of the details, but he is leading the delegation. Now, this man's job is to constantly delay. Nothing else. In Israel, the families of the prisoners of war are saying he is having progress, and his progress is delay. That's his only progress. He's sitting there implementing what Benjamin Netanyahu wants. And the problem with that recipe is, well, with every prospect of a ceasefire, and again, that depends to a very high level on the United States' position with Israel, the way Trump and Witkoff will talk to Netanyahu, will they give him an ultimatum? Have they already given him an ultimatum? Are they going to implement or enforce that ultimatum? Despite all of that, or even if we combine that with the fact that you have someone like Ron Dermer there, well, if they don't go ahead and enforce everything, you have a person who's only intending to delay. If they do enforce something, he might become irrelevant at one point. He might. But judging by what happened before, and the fact that reports confirm that Witkoff and Trump forced Netanyahu into a ceasefire agreement, well, at the time, the delegation was led by, well, the head of the Mossad, the head of the Shin Bet, and the representative of the Israeli army. We're seeing what's happening with the head of the Shin Bet, sacked. Supreme Court is refusing to allow Netanyahu to sack him. As a matter of fact, they also told Benjamin Netanyahu, you're not allowed to come with any alternatives too. So not only you can't sack Bar, you can't bring anyone else. And the government has approximately 3 weeks to try and solve this with the Supreme Court. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. Clearly, when the head of the Shin Bet, Ronen Bar, said that legally he can't take me out of my job, he knew what he was talking about. He said, I'm here in my position based on legal stuff. Netanyahu can't take me out of my position. And judging by what the Supreme Court did, the man has a point. Netanyahu can go and complain, maybe. You know, his solicitors, his legal team can try and do something. It isn't going to happen. It isn't going to happen in the Supreme Court. That is unless Netanyahu completely overwrites them and takes them down. And this is where things are headed. This is where things are headed. Things are headed towards complete disaster within Israel. This letter is gaining momentum. Troops on the ground, pilots, reports that some in the Navy are supporting it too, gunners, paratroopers, 8,200. Now the Israeli Mossad, more people from the society, doctors supporting it. They started to feel the level of loss inside of the Gaza Strip with the recent blows that they're getting from the Palestinian resistance, again proving that the Palestinian resistance is unbeatable. And no matter how hard you hit them or try to hit them, they will rise again like the phoenix. Simply won't work. What is he going to do? Is he going to drag this for the next year, for example? Now, again, a lot of this now is depending on Witkoff and Trump, the Trump administration. They're saying that the talks with Iran are going well. They're saying that there are potentials to reach an agreement with them. In relation to Gaza, again, there were reports that these latest proposals coming from Egypt could work as a bridging ceasefire leading to an end of the war. So again, we might see something new here. It's not really linked to the others, but a longer kind of ceasefire that will take approximately 60, 70 days, maybe with some guarantees. I'm not sure how valid and credible, trustworthy these guarantees would be to lead to an end of the war. And if that doesn't work, it could lead to an escalation. It could lead to more escalation. But so far, well, the resistance is getting more active. And for some reason, even in Israel, they're talking about some losses. As a matter of fact, in Israel, 2 weeks ago, they spoke about that ambush that happened in Khan Yunis. And at the time, I thought that was an attempt coming from Israel or some in the Israeli media to add more pressure on the government, although they're still very aligned. But there's an element of applying pressure here because they're recognizing the loss that's happening. They even declared that ambush before the Palestinian resistance did. That was something very, doesn't really happen that much. Previously, in previous months, at the peak of the attacks against the IDF terror forces in Gaza, Israel wasn't saying a word. No word whatsoever about what's happening. That's why, I constantly continue to give the information that's coming in from Gaza about the level of intensity from the resistance against the Israeli army, the Israeli terror army inside of the Gaza Strip. But now it's as if they are accepting that there are certain losses, meaning, well, they're not really that happy with what's happening, and they're trying to apply pressure on the government to end it, aligning themselves slightly more with the population. Because the population in Israel is very split, of course. There are the Netanyahu cult, really. There are the others who, they don't have a problem with the concept of genocide, but they are not really happy with what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing and how he's conducting this. And there is a minority who's outright against genocide, full stop. But if we want to talk about the majority are opposing Netanyahu, undeniably. The majority in Israel oppose Benjamin Netanyahu. And he's losing more and more popularity in Israel the longer the time goes by. And the criticism from the people against the media reached peak levels. That's from months back. That's not from now. That's why many people are resorting to social media and Telegram to find real sources. Even the families of the prisoners of war, they listen to Hamas more than they listen to Netanyahu. Even with the daughter of Strook that I spoke about yesterday, that's already circulating in social media in Israel. Everyone knows it, but the mainstream media doesn't report anything about it. Because, of course, the military censorship, because Israel is in a state of war, a declared state of emergency. And, of course, they use these as pretext to have draconian measures inside of Israel.